Welcome in, Greg's Weekend Rental, episode 17, coming in with the Hot Takes special. So we asked everyone on my Instagram there, Get the Greg Games on Instagram, what are your collecting hot takes? And we had a lot of good answers come in.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a fun episode here. We'll just start right into it. The first hot take we have here, the NES market will collapse.
Oh,
Now, they didn't put a timeline on here, but
Yeah.
it's like, say, the next 10 years, NES games, the people who care about them essentially are going to keep getting older. The market's going to collapse. I'll
Yeah.
let you start with this one.
I think if I had to put my finger on where it will go, I think the market will become more sophisticated. The older people get, the more income they have, the more special stuff they'll be looking for. I think it will go the way of kind of like Golden Age comics, where, it's like the stuff you don't hear about every day, but when you do, it's like the big stuff, like Castlevania, Mario. all
So
that
you
kind of
think
stuff.
majority of the market will collapse?
No, I don't think it will collapse. I think it will just get more sophisticated as time goes on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But prices will keep going up?
Yeah. I think stuff will keep getting more valuable for sure.
See, I'm kind of on that side as well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it collapse is such a hard word.
I think,
don't think
we have to weed out, like filler titles, that kind of stuff.
I think junk will stay junk for the most part.
Yeah.
We already have a lot of stuff right now that isn't that valuable.
Yeah.
When we talk about the NES market, I think a lot of people immediately go to the most expensive stuff. We talk about stadium events or NWCs or, but a lot of the stuff on the NES market is already largely not valuable.
Mhm.
I don't want to say worthless, but it's not valuable.
Right.
The vast majority of cartridges are under $50. The vast majority are probably under $30.
Right.
If we do get out of sealed collecting, like just in general, NES collecting is actually extremely cheap.
Yeah. I think the way they labeled it is just kind of wrong, actually. Because I think saying NES market is too broad.
It is.
There's too much price variance in there. I think you have to look at it on an individual title basis. Like Action 1. Action 1 has its own market. It's not the Golden Age market. I think Action 1 has its own market.
What if I were to say the Golden Age market will collapse as soon as superheroes are out of the public eye, which they are starting to become more and more?
I don't know. That's tough to say. I mean, I think with YouTube and all these things, like pop culture is like just constantly thrown at us all day, every day on every kind of medium. I don't really know if it'll ever go away to the extent we think it will.
Like just pop culture in general?
Just pop culture in general. Like that's, I feel like that's what we're primarily interacting with.
Yeah, tides will change, I think.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think like interest will wax and wane in certain areas. But like, look at any entertainment medium. Like what sells the most?
I don't know.
Sci-fi, fantasy, superheroes, horror. Everything is pop culture.
Talking about pop culture in general, then, we'll go to the next one, which is pop culture collectibles in general are overvalued.
That could be true.
Like, there's the other hot take, right?
But, it's in the title.
You talk about this.
It's popular.
Should high prices be tossed around on essentially mass-produced goods is what the big thing with most pop culture goods, at least that are collected in modern times here. Pokemon cards, sports cards, comic books, video games. It's all mass-produced stuff.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Should it be as valuable as ancient coins?
I mean,
actual artifacts, actual history, quote unquote.
Actual history. Yeah. I mean, like if you look at antique markets, they're really cyclical, and they're driven by people who suddenly have a reinvigorated interest in something. Like I think probably a certain segment of ancient coins go through cycles of waxing and waning.
I would assume so.
I think a lot of the blue chip pop culture collectibles will kind of go that way. I think there will be like cyclical interest.
Yeah, it's what Sean always bags on that. He says pop culture collectibles are linear.
Yeah.
So truly, in his view, the way he explains it is we go up, which we've been doing with a lot of comics, cards, everything. Which is going to go up. It's going to hit a peak point.
Yeah.
And from there, we will never go back to the peak point.
Right.
Now, wherever that is, we don't know.
Yeah.
Could be in there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but then it will never have a cyclical rotation where it booms again higher than it was.
Yeah.
Interest will lose. People will die. Generations move on.
Yeah. It's tough to say because, from the point where we have kind of the proliferation of media, like video, even. This stuff is going to be in people's eyes theoretically forever.
That's interesting.
Like, think about 200 years from now, someone could go back and watch a YouTube video from
this podcast.
From this podcast, like watch a YouTube video from when was it, like 2009, I forget when YouTube started, 2006, something like that. I don't know.
Somewhere in there.
But like theoretically, someone could go back and watch a video from 200 years ago, and it, a lot of the ones 10 years later will probably look just as good as they do now. The image quality won't change much once you get into like the 4K.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
1080p 4K resolution. So it's like, part of me thinks like this kind of stuff, pop culture stuff in general, is going to be very difficult to leave anyone's kind of perceptive vision.
That's super interesting you bring that up, actually. It's something I haven't thought about because, again, like we'll just go to Sean again. He's one of the channels I watch a lot that talks about antiques and other collectibles. When we talk about 50s stuff or 60s, they didn't have the video cycle that existed to create continual interest in something like model trains or Elvis memorabilia, Western stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to learn about that stuff, where do I go?
Yeah.
There's not 1,000 YouTube videos telling me why this stuff is cool, what's it about.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
And I mean, in reality, all it takes is a handful of people with money to reinvigorate interest in a certain segment at any given time.
For sure.
So, who's to say 150 years from now, maybe Superman won't be as, prevalent in the public eye as he is right now. All it takes is a few guys with some money to kind of go after something they find interesting.
And start a whole nother
cycle. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when people say like pop culture is overvalued in general,
I think modern speculative stuff, for sure. Yeah.
Yes. It's so weird because it's almost like saying like this should or shouldn't be sought after. And it's like, at the end of the day, if that is where everyone gravitates towards, like Pokemon has captured the interests of like modern speculators, collectors, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, I agree, modern Pokemon cards, it makes no sense to me. Why the hell is a card printed 1 year ago selling for $1,000? It's like pop 15,000. Numbers that just don't even make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if you are collecting in that segment, I think if you stick to the early stuff, the base to like, Neo or whatever, I think you could probably do pretty well for a long time. Like, I think that stuff will certainly have the staying power.
Pop culture collectibles are like the artifacts of a generation.
Yeah.
Even if it is only lasts a generation, this generation is going to really care about them.
Yeah.
And that will maintain prices for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to assume that in the future that if these markets are going to, let's say, not crash, but just kind of wane from public interest, we also have to assume the properties that are tied to them are no longer relevant. Which is like, will Mario no longer be a thing in 50 years? Will Nintendo no longer be a thing in 50 years? As long as Nintendo's around, Mario's going to be around.
Yep.
So,
which will have continued interest and continued pop culture relevance.
Yeah.
And pop culture stuff will continue to be very expensive.
I get the idea that it's not true historical importance. It's just entertainment interest, really.
Yeah.
But I think it will.
It can become historical importance.
Yeah.
Like, it depends how, you know what I mean? Like, more years need to pass, obviously.
Yeah.
The big question for all of this stuff is it generational?
Yeah.
Are these pop culture collectibles we're going after, video games, Pokemon cards, are they generational?
Yeah.
Once we die, will more people care? Once, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does someone born in 2010, are they going to care about collecting video games that are from 1980s?
Yeah. I think you really just have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Me too.
As long as Nintendo's around, I think there will be interest in this kind of stuff.